Robin with Creative2xmom, and today's video is going to be about the books we read in the month of April. So welcome back to my channel. My name is Robin and this is Creative2xmom. This channel is all about homeschooling, parenthood, and thriving in the day-to-day. And part of my thriving this past month has been reading really good books. Typically, I will share a video like this one at the end of the month, showing you guys the books that I read and the books that we read with our kids, but I think this is the first one for 2022 that I've actually filmed. Over on the blog, I have been listing the books that I've been reading, but I have not had a chance to sit down in front of the camera until now. It has been a crazy spring, and I can't believe that April is already over. So I read a ton in April. I think I personally read 8 books. Like I said, reading has been a part of my thriving in this busy parenthood season. So I'm going to jump right into it. Try not to keep this video too long. I'm outside because it's a gorgeous day, so you may hear the birds in the background, possibly some kids running in and out, but let's just jump into it. So I kind of sat down and I broke up my books in a couple of different categories, and I'm going to start with my parenting slash homeschool category. And both of these were on my spring reading list. I will link that video down below for you. But the first one is Love and Respect in the Family by Emerson Eggerichs. This was a reread for me. I spent a few years where I read this book every year in January. And for whatever reason, it's probably been about 2 or 3 years. And looking at the stage of parenting I'm in now with older kids, I really wanted to go back and revisit it and see if it's still applied. And it really does. If you've done any of the Love and Respect marriage conferences or parenting conferences, this one is amazing because he takes principles that are pretty general and then he breaks them down into different relationships about how you can get along with your kids. And I looked at this through the lens of being a mom of teens, and it completely changed just the whole philosophy for me. I found that it still really fit our particular family situation. And his premise is that teens will respect their parents when they feel loved. Parents will be or act more loving when they feel respected. Like, we all know that we love our kids, right? But do we always act in loving ways? And a lot of times that comes as a reaction to feeling disrespected. This book, I think I put it in my 5 books that shaped me as a parent. I really need to update that video. I will link the older one down below. But I come back to this one again and again. There are some books that I feel like really help you as a preschool parent or help you as a toddler parent or an elementary parent. This one has been with me every stage of my parenting journey. So this is, I'm actually looking at, I was thinking, okay, who's having, what baby showers do I need to go to anytime soon? This one I think is going to go on my gift list because it's really, really good. The second book that I read in that category was also for my spring reading list, and I mentioned at the time that I was reading 1 chapter a week. This is the Charlotte Mason Companion by Karen Andriola. I picked this up in September. So there's 36 school weeks, and there are 49 chapters, I believe. So I figured if I read about a chapter a week, I would end up reading it throughout the school year. I was using it a little bit as a continuing education and refresher because there's so many things to remember when you're parent or homeschooling that sometimes those little details fall by the wayside. So there's a few weeks that the chapters were a little bit shorter or maybe didn't apply. I kind of skimmed through the autumn chapter since I was reading it in March. But for the most part, this was a good way to keep my mind focused on just little things, constantly refreshing my mind on how I educate my kids. So I have read through this book probably 3 or 4 times. I think I'm going to do the same thing again next year when August or September rolls around. I'm just going to add it to my reading pile, do a chapter a week. I'm really enjoying this one and still feel like I get a lot out of it. Okay, fiction. Fiction is where I read heavy and crazy this month and kind of lost a little bit of control. We had spring break this month and we were doing a lot of traveling as far as we did a NorCal States tournament for my son in trampoline. My daughter had a dance competition. We traveled to visit family for Easter, so I found myself in the car quite a bit, and I just wanted something, as much as I love reading books like Love and Respect or The Brave Learner, I wanted something for those car rides that was just going to be fun and light. So the first one that I started with is a book by Cindy Wood Small and Erin Wood Small. It's called The English Daughter. Now, Cindy Wood Small is probably my favorite Amish fiction writer, and she has paired up in some of her more recent books with her daughter-in-law, Erin, and they make a really great writing team. So this is the story of a young couple. The husband is hurt in an accident. He was in the buggy with the daughter. There is a car that comes around the corner and he's injured, and he ends up going on pain medication to continue to run the farm, and his wife leaves for a period of time because she's pregnant. She needs help, and through some blackout moments he believes that he has fathered this baby, and the woman is blackmailing him for all her needs, and she is ultimately saying that she's going to tell his wife if he doesn't continue to support her and the child. All this starts to unravel because he lives a double life for so long that he can't hide it any longer. And he tells his wife one night what's happened, and the story evolves from there. How are they going to save their farm? Because now they're in this incredible amount of debt. How are they going to help this child? How are they going to kind of untangle themselves from all the lies that he's told and all the lies that other people have told him? Very, very good book. It's a plot line that you don't often see, especially in Amish fiction, and it was just a great look at the redeeming quality of forgiveness and the strength of choosing marriage in really hard times and really hard circumstances. Really good book, easy read, absolutely. I think this is a reread for me. I think I originally reviewed this one, so I will link that review down below if I can find it. The next one is The Bake Shop by Amy Clipston. This is an Amish marketplace novel. I believe it's number 1 in the series, but from what I've read, you don't have to read them in order. I haven't read a lot of Amy Clipston books. She's very, at least from this novel, she was pretty formulaic. So we have, I gotta remember her name, Christiana, and she has a roadside bakery. She convinces her father to let her set up a stand at the local marketplace, and she meets a young man that she likes, but her father is incredibly protective and finds fault with everything. Eventually he tells her she can no longer have her bake shop there. She needs to come home. He's effectively cut off this relationship. He's cut off her business. So many things. He is very, very controlling, and he gave me just this creeped out feeling the entire book. I did not like him. I don't know if it's my independent streak. I don't know if it's my inability to identify with that way of life, but the father throughout the entire book just irked me. I could not find any sympathy for him. Even when we came to realizing why he's so protective, I still could not find any empathy for the man. So it was a good light one. This is a good book if you just want something easy for the summer or for the holidays. Not my favorite, but it was okay. The next book I read came as a recommendation from Serena over at the Falco family, and she was sharing some books that she was reading along with her kids, and this one happened to grab my attention. The Remarkable Journey of Coyote Sunrise. So we are met with this little girl that is called Coyote Sunrise, and at first I thought, what an unusual name, but she is traveling everywhere with her father, who tends to have this very free-spirited, hippie-ish sort of persona, and they stop at a rest stop one night and she picks up a kitten. Is so in love with this kitten because they're constantly moving. She has no friends. They have a very vagabond, gypsy sort of lifestyle. She doesn't connect with anyone. It's just her and her dad traveling the road. And if they wake up one morning and they want to go to the Grand Canyon, they just drive to the Grand Canyon. It's such an unstructured way of life. It sounds delightful, but the way she describes it, she's about 12 years old, the way she describes it, you start to see how it would wear on you after a while, having no roots, having no connection. And so this cat becomes her connection. And they pick up people along the way. They pick up strangers along the way. And she's using her father's own free-spiritedness to hopefully work their way back home. As the story unfolds, you find out that her mother and her two sisters were killed, and that's when her father embraced this very free-spirited lifestyle and is sort of running away from his own pain. It's such a good book, so sweet, very, very clean. I am going to give it into the hands of my 10-year-old next. He's a little hesitant because the main character is a girl, but there's nothing super girly out of the ordinary about it. I think he'll really like it. And it was just a great adventure story about friendship and family and healing. And the last piece of fiction that I read was called The Dragon and the Stone. This is a story of a young girl, again, whose father has disappeared, and her mother is doing everything she can to keep the family together. So one day, this girl walks into the kitchen and she finds a dragon in her kitchen. He is eating the stew out of the crock pot, creates this huge mess, and of course she gets blamed. Her mother is always telling her, your imagination gets away with you, but she knows what she saw. So one night when she's reading this book that her father used to read to her, there's a pendant in there, and it's the pendant that her father always wore. Well, it ends up transporting her to this other world, very Lord of the Rings-esque, very Middle Kingdom. It had a lot of that feel for me. She's transported to this other world. She remembers these stories that her father told her. And throughout remembering his stories, he has laid out a map for her to find him if he should ever disappear and he's in trouble. So it's up to her to rescue him. Along the way, she has a friend that comes from the other world with her. She meets a dragon that helps her along in her journey. She meets this beautiful unicorn who is the prince, and nobody has seen him for years and years, but he begins to appear for her. It's all about this journey of trusting her friends, trusting this journey of all these clues that her father has left her her entire life, and discovering who she is and why she has this pendant, and the power of family and how they're connected. She goes on this journey of finding him, and it has a very cliffhanger ending at the very end that kept me wanting to read more. I know there's going to be more in this series just by the way this book ended. Very clean again as well. That's why I have been reading some of these books like Coyote Sunrise. My kids are flying through books right now, and so I'm trying to find fiction that they can enjoy, but that I can also feel confident handing off to them. So both of those I felt really good about. There was maybe one red flag in Coyote Sunrise, but absolutely none in The Dragon and the Stone. And I will link my full review down below for you as well. So what we read with our family, we had a couple of hiccups with our read aloud list this year. I did not like Treasure Island, which I was really hoping we would get into. I think if I was reading it, it'd be great, but as a read aloud, it just wasn't working for us. We started The Bronze Bow, but like I said, we've had a couple of busy, crazy weeks, so we haven't gotten through it. We're hopefully finishing that one in May. But one that we did get through was The Borrowers by Mary Norton. And it's been several years since I've read this. My daughter read it probably 2 years ago. We decided to use this as a unit study in our homeschool. It was a little bit young for my 8th grader to use it for school necessarily, but as a read aloud, she really enjoyed it. It's along the lines of, if you ever saw the cartoon The Littles, that's basically what I would say is probably based off this book. We have the family of the borrowers who lives under the kitchen, and they just borrow things. They don't steal things, they don't take things, they just borrow things, and humans are there for them to borrow from. So they have a whole world under the kitchen until one day the girl becomes a little too adventurous and she is seen by a little boy, and that starts to unravel this whole adventure that they go on. He ultimately saves them from a ferret. He ultimately saves them from being gassed out because nobody knows what they are. They've been seen and they have to be exterminated. It's this story of this little Aridy's friendship with the young man and how he ultimately saves them. We read this one as a read aloud, and then I picked up The Borrower is a Field, which is the second one. This is a series of 5. This is the story of how they end up out in the field. They have immigrated is what they call it, and they are going to find another family that they know that has immigrated in this field and how they have had to recreate their world. In the end, they find someone who takes them in because it's very hard for them to live out in the woods. They don't know how to live on their own without borrowing, so they have someone who takes them in and has created a community of littles within his home. Super cute. I'm thinking about picking up the third one myself. I've only ever read the original, so it's kind of been fun to go along in the series and see how the characters develop. My 10-year-old really liked the first one, liked the second one. He said the third one was boring, but I think he just kind of needs a break. He's been on a weird kick lately, so I'm thinking about picking up the third one. We'll see. So what's coming up in May? We'll talk about read alouds. I already shared that we're reading The Bronze Bow, and we're probably about 2 chapters away from finishing that one. So I will hopefully get to share it with you very soon. If we can finish this one quickly, I'm also hoping to get through Victory on the Walls. This is the story of Nehemiah. We read Hittite Warrior, which is from the same publisher. They are biblical historic fiction. And my husband saw this one in the catalog and wanted to read it with the kids. So I'm hoping, it's only 12 chapters. It's like 150 pages though. So we'll have to see. I'm hoping that we can finish this one in May to kind of play a little bit of catch up on our read aloud list. And then for me personally, I am still working through my spring reading list, and I am getting quite a ways into The Brave Learner by Julie Bogart. I shared in my spring reading list that I have attempted this book several times, and this is by far the farthest I've gotten into it. I'm probably about 3/4 of the way through. Trying to take notes as I go because she's a very gentle educator, very outside of my personal box. So I'm eager to share this one with you at the end of the month. So that's all the books that we read in the month of April, as well as a small taste of what's going to be coming at the end of May. Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you've been reading lately or how you are finding time to fit in reading. Like I said, I've been doing a lot of traveling, so that's been my reading time. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and we'll see you next time. Bye guys.